Hi, I'm John Hornick. Welcome to my bonus lesson on vacuum sealing. Also, catch my YouTube channel, Chef's Apprentice, or at Chef's Apprentice John Hornick. Also, follow my blog, www.chefsapprentice.com. On my YouTube channel, you can check out my Learning to Cook Like a Pro course, where you can learn to cook like a pro in 100 lessons from very easy to very difficult. Or check out some of my other series like Japanese faves, Italian faves, French faves, classics, smoked stuff, Spain on a small plate, or pig on a plate. That's one of my latest ones. Or sauces to die for. So let's talk about vacuum sealing. I vacuum seal food all the time. I've been doing it for years. And in my house, we call it zippy sucking. My wife's grandmother called it zippy sucking, and then her mother started calling it zippy sucking, and now Sarah calls it zippy sucking, and now I call it zippy sucking too. But for this video, we'll call it maybe both, vacuum sealing and zippy sucking. Now, to do vacuum sealing, it's important to overcome the initial problem. I overcame it. What is it? Laziness, okay? You might feel lazy. You don't want to do it. You might think, oh, I don't feel like doing that right now, or it's going to take too much time, or it's going to be a pain in the neck. But in reality, it takes very little time. It's very easy to do, especially with your own routine, and if you follow some of the tips I give you at the end. And also, it avoids guilt. What do I mean by that? Well, if you leave food in the fridge and it goes bad, you're going to feel guilty about it. So instead of throwing cash in the trash, vacuum seal it and freeze it. Now, different people vacuum seal for different reasons. Here's why I do it. One of the main reasons that I vacuum seal food is to preserve it in the freezer. Grocery store packaging is not good for freezing. If you put grocery store packaging in the freezer, you'll probably get freezer burn on your food. Also, the air that's in grocery store packaging can cause beef, for example, to turn brown. I always repackage and vacuum seal any food I get at the grocery store that I'm going to put into the freezer. I also often buy large quantities of food and then break it down. For example, maybe I get a package of thickened chicken thighs that has maybe 8 or 10 chicken thighs in the package. I break that down into smaller packages of, say, 2 or 4. I do the same thing with, say, beef strip loin. I buy a big strip loin, I cut it into steaks of whatever size I want, and then I put them into packages of whatever quantity I want, vacuum seal them, and freeze them. Also, I may portion food out for servings. So, for example, enough for 2 people for dinner, or enough for 4 people for dinner. Put that into the vacuum bag, seal it, and freeze it. I also vacuum seal when thawing an entire package would be too much. For example, the example I gave of chicken thighs. You got a bunch of chicken thighs in a package from the store. You're thinking, oh, I don't want to thaw that because I don't need that many, right? So break that down into smaller portions. Same thing with bacon. You might not want to thaw a whole pound of bacon. So I break up a pound of bacon into, say, 2 strips, 3 strips, 4 strips, and I vacuum seal them separately so I can just pull out of the freezer what I need. I also vacuum seal food that's been cooked. For example, if we make a bunch of meatballs, I'll put, say, whatever quantity of meatballs I think we might need for 2, depending on the size of the meatballs. Or burgers. We've already made the burgers. Maybe we've even cooked the burgers, and I vacuum seal them, put them in the freezer. I also vacuum seal perishable items that I don't use very often. For example, paella rice or risotto rice. Put that into a vacuum bag, seal it, put it into the fridge or the freezer. I'll show you an example of that in the demos. I also vacuum seal for preserving food in the fridge, okay? It extends the refrigerator life of proteins that I don't want to freeze, but I might not want to cook for a few days. This happens a lot. You go to the grocery store, you pick up something, you think, hey, we're going to cook this tonight. And then something comes up, you don't cook it that night, you already have plans the next night, and now 2 or 3 days have gone by. So what I'll do is I'll vacuum seal it and leave it in the fridge until I'm ready to use it, assuming that's only going to be in a couple of days. I also use vacuum sealing for cooking, specifically for sous vide cooking. Sous vide means to cook under a vacuum. So you take the food, you put it in a vacuum bag, you vacuum seal it, and then you cook it in a temperature-controlled water bath. You can see some of my sous vide cooking on my YouTube channel, or I have blog posts about it. You could also use the vacuum bags for reheating frozen food. Now let's talk about the equipment you'll need. You're going to need a vacuum sealer. I've been using the Food Saver brand for many years. I'll show you that when I do the demos. You also need vacuum bags. I use the Out of Air brand. I'll show you those two in a moment. You're also going to need a bag filler. Now, you could do it without this, but it makes it a lot easier, okay? This is made by a company called GrillGrate, and it extends here. If you watch my videos, you see me use this all the time. Put a bag in this side, put one side of the bag on this side, the other side on this side. It holds it open, makes it easier to fill things up, okay? I use it all the time. And you'll need a pair of tongs so you don't have contamination, a Sharpie to write on the bags, and a pair of scissors if you buy the rolls of bags and you want to cut bags into whatever size you want. And also, this is optional, kitchen scale. I always weigh everything after I seal it. I provide links for all of these products in the notes. And full disclosure, I may earn a small commission on any products that you buy. But I only recommend products that I'm willing to stand behind, and I believe in quality. Now let's talk about the vacuum sealing bags themselves, okay? I've used a lot of brands of vacuum bags over the years, and the Out of Air bags are the best that I've found. They're heavy duty, okay? And they're easy to write on. There's an area on here to write on. And they also have these reference lines along the edge, which I love because I buy the rolls of bags and I cut off in sizes that I need. And so you have to cut straight across. Well, these reference lines help you to cut a straight line across the bag. I really like that. And as I said just a little while ago, I only recommend products that I use and that I believe in, and I believe in quality, and these are good bags. Now, they have pre-made bags in different sizes. I call this one the Tomahawk. You'll see why in the demo. And there's usually a size bag, pre-made bag, to meet your needs. But if there isn't, they also sell the bags in rolls, so you can cut a bag for whatever size you need. If you need a really big bag, you can cut that, or if you need really small bags, like if you're going to divide up a pound of bacon, which I mentioned earlier, and I'll show you in the demo. These bags are a great value. They're well made. They get the job done. And like I said, there's a link in the notes for all of these products, and there may be a discount code for the bags. It depends on when you see this video. The discount code will expire, so if there's no discount code in the notes, that means that the discount code has expired. Now I'm going to do 3 demos. One is vacuum sealing a tomahawk steak. It's a thing of beauty, okay? And we're going to use the largest pre-made bag. I'm also going to show you how I divide up bacon and seal that into smaller bags, smaller portions. And then I'll also show you sealing up some paella rice, a perishable item. Let's vacuum seal this tomahawk steak. Now to do that, I'm going to use this device called the GrillGrate bag filler, okay? I mention it in my videos all the time. It's a great little thing to hold the bag open while you put down into it whatever you want to put into it. So I've put the tomahawk steak into the bag. We'll put the bag into the vacuum sealer, close the top, and hit vacuum. Now we wait for the green light to go out on both vacuum and seal. Open the food sealer, and there we have it. Vacuum sealed, out of air bag, the largest size, fits this tomahawk steak. That's why I call this bag the Tomahawk. All right, now we're going to vacuum seal some bacon strips using the out of air vacuum sealer bags, okay? And I'm going to do 3 strips for the camera. I've taken 3 strips of thick cut bacon and I've sliced the strips in half. Why? 2 reasons. 1, easier to get into the bag. 2, easier to get into the pan. All right? Now, we're going to take our vacuum sealer, and I've cut a bag big enough for these strips, okay? Then I'm going to put it into the sealer. Press the seal button. Oop, not closed, sorry. Press the seal button and wait until we've sealed along one edge. Now I could use one of the pre-made bags to do this. The smallest size, the pint, would work just fine, except they're open on the ends. I want this bag to be open on the side so it's easier to get the strips of bacon into the bag. All right, so as soon as the green light goes out, which it just did, take it out of the vacuum sealer, and then we're going to use our bag filler This is the Joe Carey brand bag filler. I use it all the time. I use it in a lot of videos. It's so easy to get things into the bag. In fact, Out of Air ought to be selling these things along with their bags. They'd be the only ones doing that, I think. Get the bacon into the bag, all right? Then, take your vacuum sealer, put the bag into the sealer, close the top, close it, hit vacuum. There we go. Open it up. It only takes a few minutes, 10 minutes to do a whole pound of bacon. Then I always write on there what it is. This is 3 strips of thick cut bacon. This is ready to go into the fridge or the freezer. That is how I vacuum seal, divide up and vacuum seal bacon. And in this case, and always, I use the Out of Air vacuum sealing bags. Now, a great use for vacuum sealing is to seal perishable items that you don't use very often. In this case, I'm going to seal some paella rice. Don't use paella rice very often, okay? Now, what I'm going to do is going to take one of the Out of Air, in this case, Out of Air vacuum sealing bags, put our bag of paella down inside, paella rice down inside, and what I've done is I've cut off the top of the bag, okay? I cut off this much of it. So I can still see what it is, right? We're going to put that into this bag. And then we're going to take this bag and put it into the vacuum sealer, close it up, hit vacuum. And the reason that I left the rice in its original bag is 1, so I can see what it is, and 2, it eliminates the likelihood that any of the rice is going to be sucked up inside of the vacuum bag. And so if you just put the rice into the vacuum bag itself, then it's possible that the sealer could have pulled some of that rice along in the vacuum bag. This eliminates that problem. So we wait for the vacuum sealing light to go out and the sealing light to go out, which they did. Release the seal, and now we have our paella rice sealed in a package, and it's hard as a rock. Why is that? Because it's drawn out all of the air. So that is another great use of a vacuum sealer to seal perishable items. You can see my guide and tips to vacuum sealing at my chefsapprentice.com blog. Now let's end with some tips, okay? Now, if you're cutting bags from the roll, I'm not talking about using the pre-made bags now, but if you're cutting from the roll, first cut the number of bags that you need by holding the roll up next to your food, okay, and measuring out how much of it you need. Don't scrimp, okay? Because if the bag is too small and you try to put the bag into the vacuum sealer and the food is too close to the top of the bag, you won't be able to close the top of the sealer, okay? So don't scrimp. Now you can seal, if you cut several bags out, like what I did when I was sealing the bacon, you can seal them all together at the same time. Or what I do, which I think is better, is to seal them as you go. So for example, I'll seal one, then I'll start to fill it. And while I'm filling it, I'm sealing the next one. And while that's sealing, I'm filling the next one, you see? And you can do the same thing with vacuum sealing, okay? You can just fill all the bags together and vacuum seal them all at the same time. But what's going to happen then is that you're going to be standing there waiting for it to seal, okay? That's the time when you say, you know what, this is taking too much time. So what you do is you fill up a bag, put it in the vacuum sealer, and while that one is sealing, you're filling up the next bag, okay? Now, I also use tongs. I showed you the tongs. I think it's important to use the tongs to put the food into the bag, and also to use that bag filler. You'll see me, or you saw me use that in the demos. Then write on the bag, write what it is. Before I started writing on the bags, I can't tell you how many times I pulled something out of the freezer. When I put it in the freezer, I was sure I knew what it was, and I was sure I'd know what it was when I took it out. And when I took it out, I didn't know what it was, okay? So it's important to write on the bag what it is. I also write the weight on the bag, okay? Now, when you pull it out, you can kind of feel how much it weighs. You can say, oh, this is enough for 2 people or 4 people, whatever. But if you have the weight on the bag, you'll have a much better idea of that, okay? One other thing that I do is if I'm using the roll, okay, after I'm all finished, I've filled everything, I've sealed everything, I seal the end of the bag. Why do I do that? So that the next time I am ready to do some vacuum sealing, I already have the end of a bag sealed. All I have to do is cut off to the size I need. If I only need 1 bag, I'm ready to go, okay? My last tip is don't put it off. If you have food to vacuum seal, do it right away, okay? And I actually kind of like doing it. And it's kind of cool to get into a rhythm. Once you get your own routine, as I was saying earlier, it goes fast and it's kind of cool, it's kind of fun to do. Okay, I hope you've learned everything you need to know about vacuum sealing. Don't put it off, do it right away. Develop your own habits, your own routine. You'll enjoy it. And don't throw cash in the trash. Happy zippy sucking.